Okay, Piali, we're going to start in a bit, guys. So you can call us with your questions or comments on phone number. Okay,
All right.
let's start.
3, 2, 1.
Orange president, he's a fucking president
You
with the European bloodline, no lies, that's bad. Are you gonna go and tell us we don't belong here?
Achtoy ni Kistoa, Titstoke, Tombatlali, Tinemi, Titlamachtia, Juan Timomachtia, Ipan Tombatlali. Piali Nimisla Paloa, Nanotoka, Pitlawak, Juan Otzonkiska, Rela Martinez, Ni Nawatla Machtiket. Meaning we got Pitoka, decolonizing your mind, Len Towampo, Champuan, Jonathan. First, I want to say we are on Tomba land. We live, we teach, and we study on Tomba land. Hello, you all. My name is Citlalli, and my last name is Arola Martinez. I'm a Nahuatl language teacher. This song is called Decolonizing Your Mind from our friend Champuan, Jonathan.
Hi, good morning. Greetings, everyone. This is your sister, Citlalli Citlalmina Anawak. I am a historian, poet, activist, and I am a proud co-host of DECOLONIAL ZANILLI. We welcome you, and we're really, really excited to share with you that today we have a very special guest, our brother Witsiliolo. He is here. We're so excited. And a little bit about Witsiliolo. He is my personal my goodness, brother, rock, therapist, so many things. He's very healing. His presence is very healing. His words, his actions, his hands. He is a massage therapist, you guys. He's also a poet, a writer, activist, a courageous warrior for our community. And with that, I want him to tell us a little bit more about himself. Brother Witsiliolo.
Thank you. I'm Witsiliolo. I'm from Orange County. I live in Santana, like third generation Mexican. As Citlalli said, I'm an educator, I'm a poet, I'm a writer, massage therapist. I work with the community. I work with our youth who are the most challenging, like they're emotional disturbed, and I work with middle high school kids, and it's amazing when you work with kids because they are able to grasp things that we take us years to understand, and they understand it in one session, and so I feel like that's like where my passion is. We're working with the youth and really giving our kids the empowerment of who they are, their identity, and the courageous to like speak up for themselves and defend themselves if need be. And so yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm really nervous, so bear with me.
We're with you. We're with you.
And hey everyone, it's Rebecca, your sister Rebecca here. Thank you again for tuning in and waking up a little bit early to join us live. We're really excited for today's podcast. So this is get diverting.
Piali, everybody. Nanatoka Jonathan on Nemo Mastike. My name is Jonathan, and I'm a Nawa student, and I'm also an artist known as Champ1, and you can find me on Instagram, Champ1.
Would you like to talk about a little bit about the song? What the song is about?
Oh, the song is called Decolonizing Your Mind. It's just basically how I felt and all the facts I've written in history and what I've studied and educated myself on, and who we are, and claiming my rightful place.
Amazing. So yeah, check out our brother's music. It's on SoundCloud, also on Spotify, right?
Yeah,
you just uploaded your music on Spotify. That's amazing. So on today's topic is cultural appropriation. So let's first talk about the definition of cultural appropriation and gather some resources. And this is what I came up with. The unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of the customs, practices, ideas, etc. of one people, often oppressed people, by members of another. This other group is a more dominant group and gains social and economic profit, while at the same time devaluing and silencing the voices, bodies, opinions of the oppressed people culture. So just go around and talk about what your definition of cultural appropriation is, starting with Citlalli.
I was trying to read up on cultural appropriation, and I'm glad we're addressing this. There are many issues. But my personal definition of cultural appropriation, I think, is when someone outside of that culture, outside of that experience, takes elements of that culture, whether it's art, clothing, ideas, looks for their own personal benefit and exploitation without considering, without acknowledging, without trying to study or even include those people in that process. And I think as Indigenous people, we have a lot of experiences of being attacked from that, but it also gets a little bit more complicated as we're going to talk about. So I think that would be my personal definition.
Okay, so so both of you said really great definitions of cultural appropriation. I guess mine would be, again, it's when the dominating culture steals, robs, like from the people that they are oppressing. So like for us, we are indigenous people, so our culture has been exploited, our ideas have been stolen, and we're given no credit, and we're seen as savages or not any producers of knowledge, customs, fashion, etc.
Yeah, I don't differ my definitions from either one of you. I think both of you really hit the idea pretty well. So just people, particularly a dominant group of people, taking an idea, land, food, clothing, all of that without a proper acknowledgement, without any permission, without any type of like proper knowledge as far as how to use that other person's culture, and doing it in a way where it causes a lot of harm and embraces the people it really comes from.
Yeah, so it's basically just taking on other people's culture and just benefiting from it. I mean, that's the way I see it. It happens a lot. I mean, I see a lot of Instagram accounts with particularly mostly white folk wearing our traditional clothing and selling them and just saying, "Oh, Bohemian, Guatemalan blouse dress," and then I'm like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" And, it's just it's a lot of work to be calling out these people, and a lot of people tell me you should call them out, but I'm like, well, you can also do it yourself. We're all in here together, like we're a collective, and my way of helping our people decolonize is through language, so that's my work. And like let's just talk about some examples. Give an example of.
Also, Brother Jonathan, you want to?
Oh yeah.
I'm not tripping. I'm on the same page with you guys.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Good examples of I've seen little pop-up shops in Highland Park that are now gentrified. They get our serapas and they're selling them for like $120.
Wow.
We know that's not how it goes. And same thing with sage in
Right.
a box. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
So that's one example right there.
Oh man, where do we start? The ones that I've seen the most, I think, are when allies try to, because they work with our communities or they work with us, as a people, they feel that they can wear certain sacred symbols, certain clothing. I'm talking about white women educators. I'm talking about white women activists, white men activists. And I think as an outside, presence to our community, I think they don't have a right to do that. I think it's one thing to say I support Indigenous people from outside, cool, but another thing to wear sacred symbols, wear the clothing because you're trying to embody something you're not. And I think you should respect our culture from a distance. And that's one of the more recent ones that I've encountered with people that I've known. And it's uncomfortable because you have to have certain conversations about it, and it happens a lot. I think the fetishizing of Indigenous culture, of Indigenous jewelry, Indigenous clothing, because we have a beautiful culture, we have beautiful art, and we have beautiful clothing, And I think it's nice that people want to celebrate it and like love it and appreciate it, but we should have priority, and we should be the ones that we're barely waking up. We're barely decolonizing. Like, let us heal. Let us reclaim ourselves and appreciate us in other ways without taking away from what belongs to us and that experience that we should have. So that's one example.
Yeah, so again, there's so many examples, and even, if we could take it back to like the founding of this country, where the quote unquote founding fathers, wrote this documentation of our U.S. Constitution, and you look back and you study it, and it was stolen from the Iroquois Nation, the Great Law of Peace. And there's a great it's a encyclopedia. It's called American Indian Contributions to the World, and it literally goes side by side of what the Constitution says and what the Great Law of Peace is, and it's almost like verbatim, like how they stole like the ideas of government, the ideas of of declaring war, checks and balances. But the difference was, like women were like out from the Constitution, and I guess like religious or cultural like practices that different people had. So even then, like that was so far from our people. Different ideas of like Marxism or socialism so from our people, and the reason why it fails in Europe, because like European people are basically like, they're not the most moral people. So when people say, oh, socialism is evil, it doesn't work, because you're having these people with no morality trying to implement an idea of like sharing, right? And so we have those. We have ideas of like, and there's so much like psychology, like different ideas of how our people have therapy. I mean, there's so many things where, even like intellectually, where people have had ideas and of astronomy, and that was stolen from our people. And even to like now, like the most basic stuff, like fashion, like like our idea, like, so like even like Chicano fashion, right? Like that was basically a rebellion against mainstream. So you have women that wear like hoops and like big earrings or bandanas or different styles that that were rebelling during that time, and yet it's considered like, it was considered as ghetto, low class, and then poor. But when like, I don't know, Marc Jacobs or Versace or whoever like reclaim like big hoops, or reclaim like big bangs or big hair, or like anything that pertains to our culture, then also it's fashionable, right? Like, oh, like now it's cool to like wear a bandana or to wear hoops, or like it takes Jenner to like big lips, like they're fake, but like all of a sudden like big lips are a thing, and it's like so like our people been having that forever, or like even like our different body types, or like women being curvy, and all of a sudden like that's like now that's in style, and like women are getting surgeries, and like to have this aesthetic, right? Where, oh, well, before, oh, you're too fat, oh, like that's like no one likes that kind of body type. We want like thin or like gray, like thin body type. And now it's like, no, now we want curvy. And it's like but it has to take white people. Like there's why it becomes cultural appropriation, because it takes a white person to like deem that fashionable, and then that's when it's cool now. And or I read an article about Nike recently that they basically they stole like an idea of like, I think, indigenous people of Panama. But yeah, they're also marketing it as like, oh, it's from Puerto Rico. Like they took like a Puerto Rican the frog, the colque frog, and then they put it in with like this design of like from, I think it's Panama. So yeah, so now so now you see that, or you see, I think I forgot what fashion line was it, but they were like selling like Mexican like style purses, right, for like thousands of dollars. And at part of cultural appropriation is like taking away our property rights to our stuff, right? So when they take an idea and they don't compensate, they don't like employ people, like when we don't have control of how we're gonna manufacture a style or a design, right? And so yeah, so I mean, there's so many examples of cultural appropriation, and sometimes I think about, like, I want to get into fashion because we need to like have our own fashion, our own like stuff, because if we don't take it, if we don't like reclaim it, then white people are gonna take it from us. And we see it happening all the time in our neighborhoods. We see it happening like in like and brandings like now that people are into, and so yeah, so we just have to like be aware. We have to like, it's hard to like reclaim our identity, and and it's hard to do all these things, and yet it's hard to also like produce things because we don't have the economic or whatever to do these things, but yet so we're kind of like we're kind of like helpless. But again, I think we're just waking up, and now people are like starting to do these things and reclaim their ideas, reclaim our styles, and but it's gonna take a lot of work. But I think we're barely like waking up to like, okay, we gotta start doing this ourselves now. So
Yeah, it's something that's not gonna stop. Like I feel like it's just kind of not gonna stop. Why people are gonna continue to do it, and it's kind of like they always say, "Well, it's cultural appreciation," and it's like you can appreciate it, you can by not wearing it and by not benefiting from it. So if you really appreciate the culture, you're going to allow those people to wear those clothing and to be in the image of, that particular culture. There's also like some Instagram accounts where you see, a lot of like Huichol, Wirarica arts and other kinds of arts. And, you just see like this white person next to it, like, oh, this amazing art. And it's like, where is the person that made this art? Like, why are you here? Is it being recorded?
It was. I don't know what happened to my computer.
On video.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
still
we
have
took
a
a
video.
break.
You guys can keep going. I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Okay.
Hi, just to let you guys know, we are recording this on DECOLONIAL ZANILLI. It is our podcast. This is episode 5, and we are doing some recordings on it. And right now, we're live streaming it on our Instagram account. So check it out.
So no worries, we'll continue
Yeah.
the conversation. So it's just a lot of people just say appreciation, and it's just you have to put these people on like the image has to be there, like them, not you. So it's a topic that it's just not gonna stop. Like it's just not gonna stop. Like I don't know. It's just and like recently, actually, I was doing some research last night. It's also in music. So I was looking up the song "Tutti Frutti" by Little Richard that came out in 1955, and 2 months after, this country singer Pat Boone released the same song and basically said that it was his song and that he wrote it and that like, he produced it, and but like that's like straight up like copying a black person's music, and just a white person just took it and it's like, oh, it's mine, just straight up. And that's a perfect example of cultural appropriation. And when the Little Richard's version came out, it was raunchy, it was provocative, it's dirty, it's ghetto, But when his just comes out, oh, it's perfect, it's by a white person, so it's perfect. So that's one example.
You can try to put it
Yeah.
on.
I actually watched the Disney movie Pocahontas yesterday, just for the sake of I haven't watched that movie since I was a young child, like 8 or 9 or something. So I wanted to rewatch it again just to see with that mindset of everything our people have been through, and it was very like nails on a chalkboard type to watch that, and just the stereotypes and all the appropriation going down there left and right, and this the Pocahontas herself, which wasn't even her real name, being portrayed as this adult woman, when in reality she was actually between, they say, 9 and 11 years old at the time in which they came over here to take, basically kill the indigenous people of that land. So to me, that made me think of the hypersexualization of Native women, and what's that has caused for a lot of us as Native women, and especially during the obvious appropriation time of Halloween, seeing people dress in,
Yes.
everything, headdresses, the sexy Native girl outfits, whatever, promoting that like that's what we are as people. We're savages, or we're like these like sexual objects. Like those are the two things. Like the shirt I'm wearing too. It says "Merciless Indian Savages," and that's what the Declaration of Independence wrote. When they had contact with our folks. So and to me that contributes to all the missing and murdered indigenous women, and this idea that's taught in starting as early from our history books to mainstream media like Disney movies and Peter Pan 2 and just like all these movies that a lot of us grew up and I was thinking too, as a child, I remember during like Thanksgiving time, in elementary school, us even dressing like Native folk. There was this like, oh, okay, this is what happened, and I think a lot of us, that was part of all of our childhoods growing up. Grew up in the U.S. education system of let's reenact what happened during like Thanksgiving, having half the kids dressed like the Pilgrims and the other half just like the Natives, and so having that is just kind of like it's heartbreaking. So just trying to like stop that, and how do we continue do that and stop our culture from being appropriated. I also think too of food, particularly with Mexican food. Yeah, it's like I don't know how many tacos I've had with like mango salsa, like weird like shit in it. That's not even like what people ate, and all of a sudden it's healthy, versus when we have it, it's not healthy. Right. It's like that's poor people food. And this podcast I was listening to yesterday talks a lot about just pretty much that it was about these white folk going into reservations to tell Native people what's the proper nutrition, and introducing like new vegetables and all these things like that, but telling them this is what you need to eat, rather than blue corn mush with them, because that was like a staple for them. Like for us, it's like corn and beans and different things, and squash, the Three Sisters, and all of a sudden when these white folk come, all of a sudden that's poor people food. You shouldn't be eating that. That's unhealthy. But that's been our staple food like forever, and that's where we get our nutrition from. And we've been fine, and it's like being assimilated here. That's where we all kind of gain weight and become unhealthy and develop like all these health conditions and all that stuff too. So I think it's a way to basically kill our people in a sense. It's an erasure. If people are appropriating our culture, and white folk are getting credit for getting all the credit for everything we do, then we don't really exist anymore. They're all of a sudden they're going to be the ones taking the credit, and they're the oppressors. So we need to figure out how we're going to stop them from doing that, so we're no longer being erased.
Yeah, and if we can go back to the history with Yolo, I love that you brought it up. I have studied how white women, when Europeans got to invaded our lands, obviously all these ideas of democracy and women's rights movement, all that was an indigenous theft of our ideas, right? But in particular with feminism, the suffragist movement, the white women there are studies that show that indigenous, northern sisters influenced the suffragist movement, but obviously we're not credited for that. Our sisters in the North are not credited for that. And the idea of democracy, which is the Haudenosaunee, that when I was up there in January, a brother broke it down. Like not just like you said, not just the Constitution, but so many concepts. And it just reminded me of feminism, how feminism, and that's what myself, I don't identify as feminist, for years now, because I'm learning that European solutions, many of them are based on indigenous concepts, and they have been modeled and transformed like Marxism, because Karl Marx studied indigenous societies, and based on that knowledge, he came up with collective living and egalitarian societies. Like that was foreign to them. Like women's rights was foreign to them. Equal rights was foreign to them. So what they came across in indigenous societies, that's how they're like, oh shit, like there's this whole other world of, of concepts. And I think that's very devastating to our communities, because like for myself, I used to identify as a feminist because I didn't know, I didn't know my history. So as I'm decolonizing, I'm like, oh shit, like I don't need this shit. Like my great grandmothers were already practicing this. But Marxism was very attractive to me. When I started learning the history, like the political systems, the economic systems of many indigenous societies, you're like, shit, we don't need this. And that's my realization, right? Like you were talking about the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, once they knew about indigenous knowledge and how accurate our ancestors' calendars were, then they tweaked the Gregorian calendar. So the one that we use today is influenced by the knowledge that they got from our ancestors. So that we're talking about this whole world of knowledge that we've been robbed of, that they thrive on, and our ignorance to it, our systematic, ignorance to it is really what nurtures white supremacy and nurtures this idea of white superiority and white genius and this white, diaspora, when in reality, the Europeans, if it wasn't for anybody else in the world, they wouldn't be who they are or they claim to be. So as we expose them, as we expose this fraud, hopefully our people will wake up. And with that, I have a question for you guys. Talking about cultural appropriation, I wanted to ask you two things. Coco, the movie Coco. Can we have a discussion about Coco? And YG has a new song called Loco, Que Loco. And have you guys seen that music video?
I haven't seen it.
Okay,
No.
so Brother Jonathan's gonna be able to break it down.
Yeah.
'Cause I let's talk about it.
Okay.
So I want to ask you guys Coco first. We all seen Coco?
Yes.
We all seen Coco?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Spanish and English Coco? All right. So what are your guys' thoughts on Coco and the conflict of cultural appropriation?
I guess I'll go. Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example of cultural appropriation, and it's kind of, I mean, I'm not a fan of Disneyland. I don't really like Disneyland, but it's hard because you have the elements of our culture, and like the kids are getting involved, and the kids are getting excited about it. Like kids were crying, saying that was the best movie they've ever seen. Like, there's a brown boy, the main character. So, and it, there's a lot of different beautiful elements in it, right? But when you like kind of like take the veil off and like really talk about like, what is this actually trying to do? Why they're trying to steal, I think this is trying to take the concept of Day of the Dead, or they're trying to like, I don't know, like what do you call it? Not market it, but commercialize it. And so then you see like, like the evil, like, right, like the evil behind, this beautiful film. I mean, again, the film wasn't that perfect. It had some problematic things in it, where especially like the whole like border thing, like, when people had our people from the dead, even when they're dead, they couldn't be free of borders, right? They had to cross a border.
That's a great
And,
point.
Yeah.
That's a great
So,
point.
so yeah, so you see these little things where you're just like, man, like, ugh. But but again, there's a lot of beautiful elements, very, very indigenous elements. Like Dante the dog, like the Mary, like the Sefasochi, like, bridge. I mean, very, very beautiful elements. But again, like we have to like be critical and really, think about, okay, what's this company trying to do to our culture, right? And it's like, it's kind of like it's kind of like with our black people, what our black brothers and sisters say, like they want our rhythm but not our blues, right? So like they want to take what's beautiful from our culture, but then like, we're still not seen as human, we're still illegal, where we have we're still like all these negative things, but yeah, they want to take the beauty of our culture, but not treat us with like respect or dignity. And so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Coco's very problematic. Like, so I mean, yeah, that's just an example of just how like this corporation wants to like steal like an indigenous festival like of honoring the dead, and that's goes back to like indigenous cultures where people celebrated the Day of the Dead like in August. It was like a 2 month celebration for like for children and just the dead, and so yeah, that was like a sacred festival for us, and now it's being culture appropriated, being stolen from a Disneyland. So it's like all these things where it's like it's it's very frustrating or infuriating because like how do we like stop this like huge corporation like stealing our culture, right? And like and so it's hard. Like we don't have the resources, we don't have the money, we don't have the legal teams, we don't have like we don't have all these things to like fight them back. And I'm sure like if our people were collective, if we were organized, if we were if we had our shit together, basically like we will not like let this happen. But so here we are trying to like figure this out. So
Yeah, I mean, I watched it. I liked it, but it's a perfect example of cultural appropriation because it's commercializing it and profiting from it. All the sales, who did it go to? With this big corporation, Disney, one of the huge corporations around the world that has all this money. A billionaire company. But I mean, I'm guilty. I did go watch it, and but yeah, I mean, these cultures, what was pictured in that movie, like you said, it's problematic, but it's it's culture that's from thousands of years ago. Our ancestors celebrate, and still to today, we also celebrate Day of the Dead. And yeah, I mean that's my take on it, and I'm guilty of being a part of that. But it's a perfect example of cultural appropriation because it's just benefiting from it, and none of that money went to the indigenous people. None of that money went to the indigenous people. But it's something sacred, and it's like across basically all indigenous cultures in Mesoamerica area.
And they use a town, right? They use a town in Oaxaca. They use a specific town that they.
Yeah, I forget especially what town.
And then they use another. I think they use the Guanajuato or like the colorful buildings. Like they use that. And Michoacan they use that idea.
Yeah, and then they also use the alebrijes, which came out in like the 1930s or 40s, which basically it's like your animal that takes you to the other world. So yeah, they used a lot of elements from our culture.
Yeah, the way I see it, it's if it does it uplift our people or does it oppress our people? Does it keep us more confined into a box? And I think that movie did do that. I did go see it in theaters, initially when it came out. I think at the moment, I think a lot of us were excited to see like, okay, this is the first like brown child cast, all movie, everything. I think all of us were like, oh, this is exciting. Oh, but I don't know, Disney.
No.
Cross our fingers and see what this happens, and it was so I think it definitely erased a lot of indigenous people too in Mexico as well. Mexico does have an issue with that, with when it comes to acknowledging their own people in their own areas, and so I think it definitely it's what it's done for like North American indigenous folks, romanticizing them. I think it romanticized our culture. And then now I've seen, since I moved back here to LA, I've seen a huge like increase when it comes to Dia de los Muertos, as far as like white folk painting their faces and like not really understanding and wanting to participate. And just like you can like find Dia de los Muertos like altar stuff in like Walmart now and like the dollar store. You can go to 99-cent store and like buy like things like that. And to me, that's kind of like insane, I think it, makes it a cheap thing when we're building our altars for our ancestors and our relatives that passed. This is something that we're really, putting our whole hearts and soul into, and be like, oh yeah, I got this like plastic whatever, and I'm gonna stick it in here, and then I think that's I think this is erasing a lot of our people's history. So
Did your daughter see it, Jonathan?
Yeah, we all went to go see it.
Okay, Jonathan perspective, family
Yeah.
perspective.
Oh, we liked it as a family. I mean, I knew our culture was there, but they were exploiting it. They're profiting from it. I really liked the movie, the graphics, and my kids loved it. It gave them it showed them a little bit of what's up, but not really. But at the same time, yeah, like I know that they're exploiting my culture. And then, I watched it a couple times, just because I like the movie, the graphics. But yeah, Disney's, they don't need the money. They shouldn't have done that. It's like a knockoff of the Book of Life.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it. So I wish we would have got on that first.
What did your daughters? Is there anything you can share about what your daughters, how they reacted, anything they said, anything their thoughts on it, anything?
They liked it. They liked the spirit guides. They were interested about the spirit guides, yeah, and they're like, oh, I wonder what's my spirit guide. So now they were wondering about that. Yeah.
No, my thoughts on it, I think it's all of that, right? I think number one, I thought representation, right? I thought, okay, there's a brown cast, because I just look at the brown cast. I'm like, okay, good, they got that right. Brown people, voices, brown characters. I was like, okay, cool. White production, right? It's white production, American production. So we're looking brown labor, white leadership, right? In Hollywood and Disney and all this powers. But I also thought about if you're a 9-year-old little girl, right, and you watch this for the first time ever, I think that's where I mix it. I'm like, it makes you feel good. Like, it makes you feel good about being brown, being indigenous. So I think these type of films show the potential in our culture if we were to invest within our own entertainment. And that's a reflection of our lack of, because we have a lot of Mexican producers, Central American producers, but it's like, do we have the resources? Do we have the talent? Yes. Do we have the leadership and opportunity? No. Because they want an award, like a high-end award, and they said, like, what about brown kids looking at themselves for the first time and these type of films? And I can appreciate that, but at the same time, I'm like, first of all, why did it take Disney so long? Number two, I felt that this was a missed opportunity to address the whole border issue, the whole anti-Mexican, anti-immigrant, anti-indigenous sentiments. So I think it really did sway away from it. But I'm mixed because I liked it. I liked it. I cried. Like, I lost my grandma very soon after, that film. So I think it was a beautiful story, but we have so many stories to tell. There's so much potential. There's so much in our culture. And I think that should be a challenge that, woke folk, decolonizing folk should take, and we are taking, right, in our media spheres. But I am conflicted on it because, like you said, we didn't gain from it monetarily in our communities. But I do see there's potential. This shows you how beautiful our culture is. And I think it opens a conversation. Well, what is indigenous? What is the Alebrijes? What is, you know what I mean? That's cool. I can appreciate that. But I think it really shows us how much more we got to go and how much more we have to do. But I just think about that because I work in elementary school. And yeah, for them to see something positive, like, we're so used to being bashed that this does make you feel like, oh shit, like, I can relate to this. I can see myself. It's 2019, it's not taking that long, and Dora and all this, right? But I think there's a lot of
a movie is coming out.
Oh, live action.
Okay.
Live action.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, because I was thinking back when I was a little girl, like, none of this shit, none of it. And you're like, and I'm like, okay, there's a starting point, but I think it's complicated, but I think it's where the money, who directs it, who does the labor, and who benefits monetarily. I think, and as far as all the aesthetics and the beautiful production, like it's beautiful the way it was presented. But I think we have to be, like you all said, critical as far as behind the scenes, right? And the whole thing about borders, like that was a beautiful comment that you said, beautiful
I'm glad
insight.
you brought that up because it totally makes sense.
Yeah, like we're under attack from this. I mean, we've always been, but this Trump man is just bringing it to the next, level. But a white person that hates us is gonna watch the movie and not give a fuck, about our people. So that's another thing too. It's like, yeah, it's a nice, pretty picture, but we know the reality of borders and the separations of families. And is it a way to humanize our story? Is it a way to humanize our communities? I'm not sure. But yeah, and my other question, thank you guys, is YG. Okay, so YG is a rapper. From where is he from?
Compton.
Compton. YG's from Compton, and he's done music with Sad Boy Loco, which is a Mexican rapper. They've done a couple of collabs together, and recently my partner he brought up because he liked YG and we like YG and all that, and he's like, "Oh, check out this video." I'm like, "What?" And yeah, I'm gonna have Jonathan talk about it. So it's called Get Loco. It's YG. The video's on YouTube for you guys to check it out. So what is the idea? What did you get from the video, Jonathan? You guys gonna watch it?
I got it was pretty cool, but it was a little too much, like too much. And then the mariachi part was cool, And then, but he could have used an essay on the video. I'm gonna keep it real, like a homie looking guy. He has a blonde dude, some other cat, and they're talking about go local, but it's more of like, I don't know, Mexican song, but they're using another dude, and it's not Mexican. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but they're using a Puerto Rican cat, and just it has no connection with the culture over here, like the gang culture, because it kind of has like a mixture too. You see the backgrounders, cholos and stuff, It's the culture we come from, where I came from. So I'm like, okay, it makes no sense. I also like, what the? I told my wife, like, how come they didn't use another guy? How come they didn't put a homie on there, But
can you talk about the visuals for people that haven't seen it? Like, what type of visuals come out in the video? Like, what do you mean by too much? What's some of the things that
well, you don't see no cholas dressed up like that no more. That was like early '90s stuff, That's all early '90s stuff, We changed. Everybody evolves, So I mean, that's kind of like in the past, and the girls, they're not like that. You don't see them as they
Let's watch it.
Out.
Let's watch it, but don't play the audio.
Oh, okay.
Let's watch it.
Let's bring it out.
Yeah.
So
let's do like a live
reaction
to it.
All right, we'll get it going right now.
Yeah, let's watch it, you guys. So
Wow.
Yeah, so we're looking at YG's new video.
And then the song title is Get Loco?
Go Loco. Go Loco.
Oh,
right?
no.
Go Loco. And again, he's worked with a lot of black and brown unity.
Yeah.
Efforts. He's done, you know what I mean? I'll reserve my comments for the end, but.
So the other rapper is Puerto Rican?
Yeah, it's Puerto Rican.
So there's three people that come out. Tyga, black, YG, black, and then he has a Puerto Rican on there. But Sad Boy Loco is locked up, who he usually works with, and he's Mexican. Like he's like a very known Mexican artist who he's worked with before on Get Out of LA or Stay Away from LA. It's a badass song. Like they've done collabs together. So I'm thinking maybe because he's locked up, he didn't get him on there, and that's who he's used to working
there's
with.
more homies out there, man.
Yeah.
There's more hidden.
And also, if you guys want to call in, we have the number pinned, so you guys are more than welcome to. We haven't received any calls, so we still want your guys' voices to talk about anything.
The number to call is 626-427-2875. Please call in. We are taking phone calls. We want to hear your thoughts, your ideas of cultural appropriation. Again, that's 626-427-2875. Call us so you can join us on the air. We're going to be watching the YG video just for the rest of us here that haven't seen it.
So we're gonna watch it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna have a live reaction to.
we should just
Go
put
Loco.
the sound. No,
Yeah.
una vez so you can hear the lyrics.
If you
No?
want, up to you.
No, okay, no. No lyrics.
Yeah, we can just watch the audio. the
They can watch
visuals.
it. They
The
can watch
visuals.
the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I thought it was gonna be like that. Alright.
Just play it there.
There you go, the visuals.
Okay, this is LA.
Mm-hmm.
Mexican flag flying.
Mhm.
Okay, one of the parties. A bride twerking.
No, no.
The lowriders. The chola look. The crip walker.
That's him. That's YG.
Yeah.
Oh, he's dressed
There you
in
go.
a mariachi. See, this is personal to me because my grandpa was a mariachi, and yeah, you can't do that. It's cultural appropriation. The 40s.
We keep it real with the 40s.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that outfit.
I haven't run into no cholas that look like
It's coming back. That looks coming back. I
Yeah.
seen some sisters.
It kind of looks like also, I don't know if you guys know Caliuchis.
Yeah.
Oh
Her
yeah.
Yeah, she kind of has that look too.
I'm waiting for the Pachu. We're trying to
I've been wanting to do
I don't know,
that. Maybe
I wanna
dress
get-
in
I
like
wanna get
every
married in
Oh,
Pachu
yeah.
too.
There's a few people.
Oh, but see, they have the Mexican and the Puerto Rican flag up.
Yeah.
But where's the Puerto Rican
You're gonna
culture?
see him. You're gonna see the cat. Oh yeah.
I think
you
it's
want
just
to
because the
go
guy that's with
The rapper. There's no
Yeah.
Mexican
The master.
rapper.
There's no Mexican
check.
rapper.
There you go, right there. Like you need a Mexican
No.
cat on there.
They got
Looks
black
like it's
flag and
Hello.
Sochi.
Oh, I gotta forgot. Hi. You're live.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. So my name is Sochi. I live in Central California on Miwok territory. I love that you guys are doing this right now, first and foremost. Thank you for being called in. One of the things I really wanted to discuss was the use of Mikas Laka as opposed to Masewali. So I know that we have a word for being indigenous in Nahuatl already, and Mikas Laka is one that isn't it. Why do we continue perpetuating that amongst our own people, you guys think?
Hello. So in regards to that, I know that so there's two words in Nahuatl. There's Masawali, which means person or indigenous person. Then we have the word Goyot. Goyot, back in the day, it did mean coyote, but now it means city person. So basically, any person outside of an indigenous town, basically, because now it is spoken in indigenous towns. So Nikan Tlaka is in documents, and it's literally saying, we, the people, basically, we the people. We, the persons
The
here,
people
basically.
here, right?
The people
To
here.
make more collective.
Yeah, and
The literal translation, isn't it the man here, though? Mikas Laka, the man here.
Tlacat in classical Nahuatl, which is the old school Nahuatl, means person, human being. In modern varieties, it means man. But I use Masewali to identify. I don't know if you guys want to.
Right.
yeah, I can chime in on that. Hey sister, thanks for calling. Myself, I use Nicantlaka as a historian. I'm studying or trying to study classical Nahuatl. So that's the difference. So brother Huitlawak is talking about the contemporary use of Nahuatl, which is Masewal. And I'm using Nicantlaca to kind of honor the initial interactions of our people and the Spanish invaders. So that's why I use it. And with my work, I use Nicantlaca Women Warriors. I use Nicantlaquera because that's what I feel comfortable with. And I like the way that I use it is as a way to pan-indigenous, like kind of a pan-indigenous identity. But I'm open, like, brother and I, we use different concepts, and that doesn't mean he's imposing on me his concept or I'm imposing on him his concept. I think it really means like how you personally want to use it and what your philosophy is behind it. And with me is I like the idea of we people here as a pan-indigenous kind of like a concept to underlay all of our indigenous peoples. Obviously, we're not a homogenized indigenous group. We're not on Nahuatl speakers, but I think it helps me begin that conversation to say we're not Hispanic or Latino. People ask, well, what are we then? You know what I'm saying? I always get that comeback, and I'll say, well, my suggestion, my alternative is Nicantlaca, Nicantitlaca, Masewal. I feel comfortable with Nicantlaca, so that's my reason.
So, for sure, I think for me personally, and I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, what matters the most, right, is that we're speaking an indigenous language. At the end of the day,
Absolutely.
the primary focus is that we're speaking indigenous. However, I think personally, I always kind of take it a little bit of, I want to say, I get a little bit peaked when I see Nicantlaca because I've always, it's true as a historian, as a historical scholar myself, it is a document that we use Nicantlaca to refer to the people here. I always just kind of figured that was more of the perspective of the times, right, 15th century Mexico, and trying to understand the new interaction with Europeans and trying to find, how you guys were saying, the difference between being from the Pueblos Originarios and then being from Europe. But I think that the way that I've always kind of looked at it is our First Nations, the modern first and foremost, we have to remember that we are all indigenous as Mexicans, right? We all have some form of connection to the roots. The only difference I've always said is that our brothers and sisters in the Pueblos Originarios, they just happen to speak an indigenous language as their first language, not Spanish. And of course, a few cultural differences. That being said, I've always kind of felt that those of us who speak decolonial practices should really push to include those First Nations, our brothers and sisters who speak Nahuatl, for example, or who have the Chad, the first language, for example, in a more with a more inclusive conversation, because they do maintain the closest connection to the roots. And part of that, right, is using identity markers that they themselves use, the words that they themselves give us in modern context. So I think that's where I come from too when I always push to correct people who use Nicantlaca, because I do them like Citlalli, and then I conjugate it for them, et cetera, et cetera. But I understand.
Yeah, no, beautiful question. More thoughts with Yolo?
Hi, with Yolo. Yeah, I mean, like when I was, looking at, classical Nahuatl too, like from my understanding, Maliwali was, so I guess there's different words for a commoner and someone who was born of the elite people. So the Maliwali was people who were just the commoners, right? And then, so then when I was looking at Nicantlaca, like to me, that made more sense to me as well because, I like when I first heard it, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, what are the resources? Like, where's the sources for it? So I was looking at the resources itself, and I was reading about it, and then that's why I came up to the conclusion. Okay, I rather prefer this word because it makes more sense to me. It's more collective, but yeah, like you said, like we need to like respect each other. We need to like as long as we're speaking indigenous language, as long as we're saying indigenous terms, like we, that's all that really matters. And I think I know we're so used to like say, oh, that's wrong, don't say that. We can correct each other, but also like if someone wants to use Maliwal, even though I might not agree with it, I will still respect it because at least you're using a native language, and whether it's Purépecha or Huichol, whatever it may be, like I don't like at this point I don't really care what people use anymore, as long as it's indigenous, as long as you're identifying me as indigenous in your own language, like it doesn't really matter. Like call me a name in Lakota, Cherokee, I don't care, as long as long as you know I'm indigenous, like that's all that matters to me. And so yeah, so I feel like at this point we should just support each other and like not get hung up on labels and like because I mean some people want to reclaim the Indian word too. And I'm like, well, I don't agree with Indian, but whatever. If you want to use Indian, like that's all that matters. I don't whatever. But as long as we're using indigenous languages and we are recognizing we are indigenous, and so yeah, I feel like at this point I'd rather be more supportive and then just be like, no, that's wrong. And so, but yeah, like you're right too. Yeah, go ahead.
Including the Pueblos originarios, right? All those people who speak Nahuatl as a first language.
Right.
I think that's where I come from.
Yeah.
Including them in the conversation and including them in the terms that they give us. Because decolonial practices, at the end of the day, that's the far more important thing. But I think that one thing that we do is that we forget that even though we do have indigeneity, I speak to guys and myself, and I recognize our indigeneity, but we also forget that we have to speak that indigeneity. We aren't born into it, right? That's just the fact. Our culture, one thing I always say about Mexican culture is if you really look at some of our customs, some of our traditions, you do find their indigenous roots in them. In many of our words as well. As Spanish is a heavily indigenized language now, with the Mexican Spanish. But I think it's important to that. But thank you guys for sharing your guys' perspectives on that too, because I know that there are movements to push me that a lot. But for me personally, like how you guys said, for me personally, it's to raise the pueblos originarios to the conversation.
Yeah, because I met some people that that came from those pueblos speak Nahuatl, and I asked them, so what do you think about Liga Talaka? And they go, oh yeah, they go, I understand it, but we don't use it anymore, or we don't say that, but they know where it's coming from. I think like they understand the concept of it, and and then they'll like tell me, oh, well, this is what we say. So it's about cultural exchange, about let's share, let's like share knowledge, and then just respect each other, whatever the word is. But I feel like the ones that I've talked to, at least, they kind of understand the word, and you go, I mean, they know, and it's an outdated word basically, but they know where it's coming from, and they don't get like mad that we say that, but they just say, well, we don't use that, but we understand it though. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just having this dialogues open with them is also important too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you guys for that, for your guys' time on that. Like I said, I think it's important too, to be able to have conversations like this, because we're not just one giant monolithic group, and decolonial practice, as we figured right now, it means something different to each of us, right? The way that we connect to our indigeneity. However, like I said, I think I'm glad that we're able to exchange these mentalities, these approaches, these perspectives. Because at the end of the day, as long as we understand, that we're indigenous and we're using indigenous languages, once again, just reiterating that for a sec to the audience that you may have. And then understanding too, it's important for the audience to know that things like that is like how you use this, that is outdated, it isn't something that's a little bit standard. We have to definitely include that more in our conversation, in our practices.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, sister. Thank you so much for raising that. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for calling in. You're the first caller.
Yeah.
You've been wanting someone to call in, and this is for us by us. So thank you very much for your time, to take the time to call us and have conversations, because that's how we build community, by having conversations.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys again. I'll see you guys, of course, in 2019 social media, this powerhouse.
What's your Instagram? Yeah.
My Instagram is Eloise Dior. My Twitter is #CiglaForCheek92. You guys can follow me. I will see you guys on there. Social media. This is powerhouse for us.
Right.
We connect. I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
You too. Citlalli.
Yeah.
I did see a couple other people calling,
Yeah.
so our line's available, open again. Unfortunately, we can only take one call at a time.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
So our line's open again if anyone else has anything.
Can you
they wanna
repeat
share.
the number again?
Yes, the number is 626-427-2875 if anyone wants to call. Fortunately, I don't think I can call back.
So we were watching, as we got our first call, we were watching the images of the YG video. You guys' reactions to it without hearing the words. So
Yeah, I mean, just him wearing a mariachi outfit in itself, like I said earlier, it's something personal because my grandpa was a mariachi and he was in a mariachi band for years and he traveled around the continent, basically, La Capiala. And for him to just put it on and red and to be just rapping.
Is he a blood?
yeah,
Okay. Blood.
Yeah.
that's what the red comes.
See, it's just not. No. It's just ashkana. Amo. Yeah. I can't.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so when you see the videos, a lot of like Mexican aesthetic, a lot of like 90s, the cholo urban look, and again, I love like Chicano Mexican fashion because, I mean, like my parents grew up in like the '60s, so they were like they had that kind of fashion. They weren't in gangs, but but they liked the low riding, they like cruising, like the oldies. But so that's how I associate that culture with like urban Chicano youth at that time. And then I had a sister who was in a gang in the '80s, and she also had that look, and like all her friends. I always thought they were so they were so beautiful. And but yeah, like I mean, like those were our fashions, and during that time, because our people, we don't have like we're poor, so that's what our people wore. And again, like taking that fashion, I always think about like I need to have a clothing line where I could like redo all these fashions to a modern time, right? So I'm always thinking about these things, but again, you see they're taking our culture, taking our fashion, or taking what our
Taking
people
our hoops.
like what our people say we're gonna rebel against society and we're gonna have our own thing, and to me it's also a style of it's a fashion of resistance and against the mainstream, and so that's where that's why I'm in love with that style and that culture because I grew up with it, my parents were in it, and so it's like that's why I associate it like that's what our people created out of rebellion from the mainstream.
Now what I was thinking, I grew up with that too. Like my mother's side of the family, we're all gang related in Compton. So my great grandfather was strapped. I have uncles that like that's just my family. You know what I'm saying? And so when I saw this, I was like, oh shit! Like, cause it's not just a bunch of black doing this. It's like he's surrounded by our own people. They are our people. And then you see him, and I guess what comes to my mind is his efforts before this is he's always been trying to do like a black and brown unity. He's always trying to like include us in his music. He's worked with Mexican rappers. He's always, bringing in that unity. He's always giving props to our people. So I appreciate that. The fact that there's no Mexican lyricist, there's no Mexican rapper, that's what kind of that bothers me because it's like you're in LA, you know what I mean? There's a lot of talent, and he could have used that platform to bring in. If Sad Boy Loco's locked up, who he's worked with before, all right. Well, maybe Sad Boy Loco could have advised someone, recommended. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a big industry. But what gets to me is if what would happen the other way around if it was Mexicans doing this, to black culture, right? Or like whatever, like the things that we know are for sure African, and then bringing in the element of he has like a Mexican woman on his lap, and you know what I mean? Like how would that look on the other side? Like if it's all Mexicans and a Mexican man has a black woman on him, and like you know what I mean? I'm just bringing that in because that's what it curtails to me. It's like, all right, what if we were to do this or our community does this? And just to bring in the consciousness level of it. And then the lyrics too. You haven't heard the lyrics, but the one that bothers me the most is the last one, the Puerto Rican rapper. Because he talks about he wants a white girl, and then he talks about her vagina, the inside of her vagina. So that's how he ends the song.
Oh,
Wow.
So
graphic.
you know what I'm saying? Like You know, like if
Yeah.
you don't have a Mexican rapper, okay, all right, bring in some powerful shit about our people. You know, bring in some powerful stuff about our culture. Don't bring this rapper that's gonna end this that has a badass beat. It has a badass beat. Don't end this song with like this rapper talking about he has a white woman that he wants, you know, and then talking about a vagina at the end. Like
Yeah,
that's where I'm just like,
Yeah,
miss me.
I mean, especially when you
know?
see the video, there's a lot of beautiful Mexican women there. So
Yeah.
it's like they're representing our beauty and like, but then yeah, and then you talk about white women. It's like okay, like that has no place. Like that has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
visual that we just saw. So it's kind of like yeah, I mean, it's like when if a young girl seeing this, say, oh, like you know, I see my people, but yet this guy wants a white girl.
That's
know?
all I am.
Yeah.
Is this part of me and the inside of that? Not even. Yeah. Anyway, so lyrics are something else, but just to say the representation, the imagery, it is powerful. This guy, you know, came out on Jimmy Kimmel. It came out like, you know what I mean? It
Wow.
says a lot of. It has a lot of play, but my thing is our people were involved obviously in the process. He's tried to do it, and that to me says okay. That means I can't just sit back and criticize the brother. Like I need to reach out to him. You get me? Like he probably doesn't know people like us. He probably doesn't know, you know, this conversation. And he's open minded from what I've seen. Like I followed him for years. So I'm like, you know what? That's my challenge. All right, cool. Like I have to say that. All right, let me hit him up. I'm gonna message him. I'm gonna send him, you know, our work and then start the dialogue. Right? Because I think we're all learning. So yeah. Any last thoughts? Sorry, Rebecca.
No,
Jonathan?
I just think when it comes to other POCs appropriating each other, I think we just all need to have some mutual respect. And if we see it amongst each other or other POCs, I think it's important for us to call each other in and, you know, have that healthy dialogue and, you know, defend each other. So that's all I got to say.
Jonathan, any last words?
I just gotta say that like we need to start talking about like our rap artists yourself, rap artists, they need to start talking about our people, our past, our history, our facts. We're educated people. We work with the stars, you know, we studied all that. And we can let them know that we're evolving from gang culture and we're self-educating ourselves now and stuff, and not that we're just gun waving, blasting foods down straight on the block, repping your hood. It's time to start studying and repping your culture and learning your true identity and who you really are. And that's my.
Yeah, and I mean, we can go on about every single topic, and it's good to have conversations like we do every month here. So having dialogue, having people call us in. So we're gonna get it together next time. This is our first time. Thank you very much for calling in. And the word of the day. Now, what the word of the day is? She mo malwi.
She
Chi mol
She mo malwi. She mo malwi. She mo malwi. Shimomalwi.
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 That means take care of yourself. Cuídate.
Oh, I love
Shimomalwi.
that.
Shimomalwi.
Shimomalwi.
Shimomalwi. How do you spell that? Shimomalwi. How do you spell that?
SIM